he becoming like an educational screamer type shit. Like because I'm becoming a history teacher now. Like I was talking about the niggas in what's that place called? I forgot what the last video was, but I was talking about them niggas and how they smoke tobacco at 6 years old. Now we watching that video about the horrors of chemical weapons in World War II. I'm really becoming a history teacher, bro. I'm telling y'all, like, this not like I'm not just a regular screamer no more. I'm a teacher slash streamer. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to help the youth. You know, like you want if you want to watch me, you gonna learn, bro. Like, truly gonna learn. Let's see. I don't know. I don't even know what this is. I just be trying to find informative stuff. So I don't know what this is.
The horrors of the First World War. They usually bring up the trenches, the artillery, and the machine guns. And although they were indeed more than horrifying, chemical weapons, on the other hand, deserve their own place on that list. Because nothing else from that war attacked the human body in such a cruel and methodical way.
Tear
We're going to
gas
go
and
deep on that.
Probably.
And because this is not quite a light topic, we are giving you a chance here to reconsider watching this video if you are eating or are looking to avoid nightmares. Take this as a genuine warning before we go any further.
Okay.
So, if you are still here, let us start all the way from why there was a need for such a disturbing weapon in what was then considered a modern time. First of all, the idea itself was ancient, and long before modern armies marched across Europe, older civilizations had already learned that poisons and choking smoke could break stubborn defenses when normal weapons failed. During sieges, attackers sometimes poisoned wells or streams to force a garrison to surrender, or even blew irritating smoke to try to flush them out. These were occasional, improvised tricks rather than real battlefield doctrine, and they remained on the margins of warfare for centuries. In the years just before the Great War, a few chemists and military officers experimented with modern variations of toxic agents, but the tests did not impress anyone. The equipment and delivery methods were unreliable, and culturally, the whole idea smelled of dishonor. Unlike artillery or machine guns, poison carried a reputation of being sneaky and unfair, so military planners simply did not take chemical warfare seriously. However, they were about to change their minds when the war that was thought to end decisively in just a few weeks turned into the bloodiest stalemate in human history. I am talking here specifically about the Western Front. You all heard about it and the horrors of trench warfare, but believe me, you did not know just how bad it was going to get. You are now going to see why chemical weapons are not widely discussed by historians. So, the situation is this. Both sides dug in, with no one able to outmaneuver the other, or to break the trench defenses directly. This was mainly because of the new weapons like machine guns and quick-firing artillery, coupled with the first serious use of aircraft.
Bro, they was really so close to each other in war. Like, your nigga, like, you would be right next to your mans in the army, like, and y'all in World War II, y'all be in the little bunks wherever they was at, like, fighting back, right? Y'all holding it, right? That your man, he pick his head up for 1 second, that nigga get hit, his brain, his whole head just explode right on you. Like, that has to be a crazy experiment. Like, that has to be the most crazy experience. That nigga, his head just exploded right in front of you. Y'all so close, and that nigga brain probably got over you. Like, bro, war not built. I'm not built for war. I'm gonna be honest. Like, I'm the type of nigga, bro. If I'm doing any war, I want to fly like a plane or something and just drop bombs on niggas. That'd be hard. I can't be on the front line though.
Warfare. The old tactics did not catch up with the technology.
Nigga, his shit head tapped right in front of me.
Locked in one against another,
straight,
no
bro.
solution in sight. Not long after the trenches fully locked in, disturbingly creative attempts to break the deadlock began to take place. And our topic today is one of them, and perhaps the worst one. Okay, now the previously seen cowardly weapons were not looking too bad if they were going to win the war. The Germans were the first ones to actually consider using chlorine gas that they had as a byproduct
You drop
from
a
industry.
different type
But
of
aside from the
bomb
moral
on me.
standpoint, there was actually a legal problem, because weapons that
You're
fired
18.
or dispersed toxic substances were
I'm
banned.
16.
In the 1899 Hague Peace Conference, the major powers signed a declaration to, quote, abstain from
I'm
the use
16.
of projectiles, the sole object of which is the diffusion of asphyxiating or deleterious gases. The 1907 Hague Convention repeated this ban. However, if you read this carefully as the Germans did,
Why
you
you
would see the
think
word
everything is sexual?
projectiles. And
Lock
if you think
in.
about it a bit, no one mentioned anything about using chemical weapons.
You just expose yourself. You just expose yourself. Cause what I was saying is, why you trying to do violence with a minor? You're a grown man. You see, and you just expose yourself. Now you just let me know what type of time you was on with that statement. You just expose yourself. I was
About their
talking about
delivery
violence.
method. So, the Germans realized this loophole in the convention.
Yes, it
And
is.
instead of firing gas shells, they would disperse the toxic chlorine gas simply by releasing it from cylinders and letting the wind blow it to the enemy lines.
Ooh.
This way, they were technically not breaking the rules. On the evening of the 22nd of April 1915, Allied troops along the line in Flanders noticed something drifting toward them. It wasn't a bombardment, and it wasn't the usual
Damn.
smoke from artillery.
Them niggas got creative with it. Like, them niggas are just outside enjoying the scenery, sun gazing. Niggas get to breathe in. A few seconds later, niggas dead. Like, what, bro? That gotta be crazy.
It moved too slowly, and it carried an odd greenish color as the breeze pushed it forward from the German trenches. At first, some
wouldn't
soldiers
have brought
thought it
up
was
your
just a
age.
smoke screen for an infantry.
I would have brought up your age because I'm a minor, right? And you're an adult, right? So adults don't supposed to try to hurt, younger dudes, younger males, younger people. I'm a teen. I'm basically a kid still. I'm basically still a little boy, and you're a grown man, bro. That's what I'm saying. Like,
But within
Yeah,
moments, they understood what this was. By that point, it was
Awesome.
already too late. What they were watching was chlorine, released from over 5,000 cylinders the Germans had positioned in secret over the previous
Man, the
weeks,
Germans
while
is
they
on some
waited for the
bullshit.
perfect wind to release it. Once the valves opened, more than 160 tons of gas flowed out along the
Chatting.
front roughly 4 miles long. Dense,
That's
sickly
it.
clouds rolled into trenches and dugouts, where the men inside had no protection because proper gas masks did not exist yet, as no one had expected such attacks. Some recognized the smell of bleach and realized what they were breathing in.
Hey, you
but by that
baked,
point,
yup.
the damage had
it's
already
over
begun.
with. Them niggas just get to smell it. They breathe it. Niggas trying to breathe in and out. Wait, this smell like bleach. Oh yeah, you're done. It's already over, bro. It's already over, with, man. You already. You might as well call your loved one and tell them you love them. Like it's over with. Like, right? Well, did they even have phones back then? They had to go write a note real fast. Like,
We're
you
going to show
can't-
you the effects of chlorine on the human body
Nah,
in a
them
bit,
niggas
so
on some
you will
bullshit.
understand it better. French captain Georges Lamour managed to contact his headquarters and shout that his trenches were overwhelmed before the line went silent. His message ended
That's
with
tough.
him dying at his post. Soldiers stumbled out of their
World War
positions,
I, II,
with grey
man.
skin and bulging eyes, grabbing their throats as they tried to escape the cloud.
Yeah,
But
it's
most of them
over
went
with,
only a
gang.
short distance from their position before collapsing. In less than
Over.
10 minutes, an entire French and Algerian front line was erased as a fighting force. More than
Damn.
1,000 men were killed outright, over 4,000 severely injured. A 4-mile gap opened in the Allied line, something that had simply never happened before on the Western Front. German
got
infantry
took out
moved
by
forward
gas.
behind the cloud, with nothing more than gauze pads
tough.
soaked in bicarbonate solution tied across their faces as protection that was supposed to keep the gas out.
World War III. Oh, I forgot to tell you. You're getting drafted. You're getting drafted for World War III. Yeah, you on. Yeah, you're 18, bro. You're getting drafted. Yeah, it's over with for you, bro. I ain't gonna lie, you still in high school. Nigga, you in high school for 1 year. You gonna be out in the real world. You gonna be a grown man.
They had been told
And
that
niggas
gas
graduating
would
early,
clear the
too.
way, and that they only had to follow.
You
However,
say
none of them were ready for
No.
what they walked into. As they advanced, They passed bodies in positions that made it very clear these men had not died
Right,
quickly or cleanly. If we described it here, the video would surely be taken down from YouTube. And the
You gonna
Germans
act
seeing it for the
spit?
first time were just as
They gonna
stunned
already
as anyone
know.
else.
They
Because
know.
this weapon had never been used on such a scale before.
And you can't act like you stupid. It's either that or you going to jail. Everybody who refused to go to the army, you going to jail. If they draft you and you say no, or you try to act like you stupid, bro, you're going to jail. You know what I'm saying? That's tough. It's either you pick jail with a bunch of niggas who probably ain't seen a girl in 20 years, or you risk getting head tapped and getting took out of the game. Like it's really like me personally, I look, he might gotta go to jail, bro. I ain't trying to get head tapped, bro. Not in the army, bro. Cause nobody care. Them niggas not finna care. They just gonna leave my body and run. Them niggas not finna do nothing for me, bro. You won't be home. They gonna find you, bro. It's like 5 years. 5 years. 5 years low key straight. Cause I'm not trying to get head tapped, bro. And then they got advanced stuff now. Like back then they probably had muskets and the machine guns probably them hoes probably you could probably shoot one round, that bitch break. And now they got all type of stuff. Like I can't compete with that.
A huge gap opened in the Allied
Like what happened if I just get nuked? I can't fight back.
A major breakthrough. But the Germans had not planned their follow-up forces properly, as they did not expect such an effect. And also nobody knew how safe it was to move into the contaminated area. Some of their own men had been caught by the edge of the cloud. So, instead of rushing forward in the first hours, they hesitated.
Oh, yeah, I know I'm not getting drafted.
Lost the chance to turn this
I know I'm not
into
getting
a
drafted.
decisive capture of Ypres on
That's
that
for you,
same
nigga.
night.
I know
Chlorine
I'm
is
straight.
heavier than air, so the cloud
Been
rolled
though.
on, drifting into nearby villages and low-lying.
And I don't even got the
It killed
physique
many more
or
civilians
anything
and animals
to get
in
drafted. So
villages downwind from German lines. On the Allied side, the commanders were trying to plug a gap in the line. They were shocked not only by the casualties, but by what they saw as a clear violation of the rules that had been agreed on.
They say 5'11" and up,
there were
and
no
you
proper
getting drafted.
gas masks ready, so reinforcements had to put a piece of fabric soaked in urine over the mouth and nose. It sounds disgusting, and it surely was not pleasant.
I would have had to take that death. I ain't gonna lie. I would have had to take that death. I ain't putting no. Bro, what? I'm gonna have to take that death. Cause the only way you could protect your nose is by putting a cloth wrapped in pee on your face. I'm gonna have to take. I can't do that. I ain't gonna need cap. I can't do that. Them boys, niggas trying to look cool and all that shit. Not cool, bro. You smelling straight piss. Nah, bro. I'm cool off that one.
To wear, but the ammonia in the urine could help reduce the chlorine's effect. And seeing what happened to the affected soldiers, men accepted it very quickly. Before we move on to the even worse agents that followed,
they all just had to pull their shit out and pee.
Let's first explain what chlorine itself did to the human body. When it was released from cylinders along the front, because it was heavier than air, it hugged the ground and slid down into shell holes, trenches, and dugouts. Chlorine is very reactive with water. When it comes into contact with moisture, it reacts and forms hydrochloric acid. Anywhere on your body that is naturally
imagine if a war happened now. Like, oh, nah, I mean, we not in no, well, dang, do Savannah got like major stuff in it? They probably got something major. Oh, they got like the ports and stuff. But I'm like, I'm gonna be good. Like, I'm not in Savannah. I'm like, you know, so I should be good. Like, but the niggas in Atlanta and then like the port near the ports, y'all baked. They hitting all the major spots. Every chemical, nah, not for me. Not for me. We are, fuck Utah. I'm going to Dakota. Or nah, they probably do something to Hawaii too, low key. What's that one place? I forgot what that one place is. Oh, Utah, actually. I could go to Utah. That's where to go at. See, I go to Utah, actually. That's where to go at. Yeah, never mind. I just remember.
Become extremely irritated. It is basically as if someone spilled acid on you, but the
Damn.
lungs take the main hit. Inside them, the tiny air sacs where oxygen normally passes into the blood are coated with a thin film of moisture. Chlorine reaches those air sacs, reacts with that moisture and turns it into acid. The tissue becomes inflamed and damaged, and the body's response is to swell and to leak fluid into the lungs. Little by little, those spaces fill up. Now just pause for a moment and imagine that your lungs are getting filled with water from the inside, because that is exactly what is happening when chlorine gas is inhaled. The cause of death is actually drowning.
You drown it? Oh my god.
We really have to be careful with descriptions, but you get the idea and how that might look from the outside on an affected person. It leaves a strong impression on anyone who sees it happen. But that was just the first of the major chemical agents used in the war. And as bad as that sounds, chlorine was only the starting point. Once the Germans used gas, the barrier was gone. All the major armies began to work on new chemical weapons, and very soon, two even more frightening agents would join chlorine as the main tools of this new kind of warfare. In the days following the first gas attack, the Germans launched 3 more gas attacks in the same area, trying to force the line to break again. But the Canadians and British held their ground despite heavy losses. The Germans gained some territory, but the momentum soon faded, and the offensive stalled like every other major push on the Western Front. The British Army set up a dedicated gas warfare organization, and within a few months of Ypres, they were ready to try their first attempt at what was supposed to be a large-scale retaliation at the Battle of Loos on the 25th of September 1915. They chose the same delivery method as the Germans, as they did not yet have reliable gas shells. In the same fashion, they lined up thousands of cylinders filled with chlorine and planned to let the wind do the work.
You got the safe code.
However, along parts of the front, the wind shifted.
What is in the safe code? I mean, what is in the... Is money in the safe? Why would they have money in the safe? Why do McDonald's even need a safe anyway? Why would they need a safe? It's not no GTA business, nigga. You don't need no goddamn safe. Refill. You been in the safe before? That gotta be why you had that gotta be why you had the code. You must see it. It's like how much money in there? It's like a lot. Gotta be a lot. I would never, I never in life steal, but oh, okay. Depending on the day. 5K? Yeah, I'm not going to jail for 5K. I'm straight.
Pushed the chlorine back over British positions. To make things worse, someone had issued the wrong valve keys for many of the cylinders, so many of them were not deployed, which was not a problem in itself.
That nigga's messed
but when German
up.
artillery began firing at those positions, some cylinders were hit and burst among the British troops themselves. The army had issued crude smoke helmets with goggles, basically primitive hooded masks, but they were still unreliable protection. In the complete chaos of the attack, the British had actually killed more of their own men with chlorine than the Germans did. So, they learned how dangerous this new weapon was, and that this method was not the right solution. Because of this, they finally developed gas artillery shells that worked, and this soon became the main delivery method for gas on all sides. But the main change came when new and more dangerous chemicals were introduced. Chlorine was no longer a secret, and it was easily recognizable by its color and powerful smell. That is when phosgene came into play. It is 6 times deadlier than chlorine, but more importantly, it is almost odorless, with a mild smell described as resembling musty hay. Even worse, it would not show any immediate effects on the person inhaling it for hours. But after you think the attack has passed and you are safe, the effects start to show only after 4 to 24 hours. And by this point, it is already too late. If you inhaled enough of it, there is nothing that can be done to help you. Phosgene became the main killing agent in World War I, responsible for about 80% of all gas casualties.
That nigga gone.
So, how does it work?
Similarly
to chlorine, it attacks the lungs, but it is much more deceptive before its full effects begin. When it reaches the lungs, it reacts more slowly before making the hydrochloric acid that damages the lung cells. This causes fluids to leak into the lungs, and then the same effect as we described with chlorine,
So
just
it's
even more
drowning?
powerful once the symptoms begin showing up. Everything depends on how much of the gas the victim has inhaled. If the amount is
Oh,
smaller,
no.
maybe a soldier could survive with more or less consequences. But often, it was too late once the effects showed. Medical staff described gas casualties as definitely the worst ones, and everyone that saw one was fairly traumatized for the rest of their lives. The saddest part was that they simply could not do anything to help them. They could give them oxygen, which was limited in supply back then, and made even scarcer because gas casualties.
How is oxygen limited? Wait. I mean, wait. Now this might be a crazy question. How is oxygen limited?
Would always arrive in big numbers at the same time and overwhelm the field hospitals. And
Because they
nothing would
have,
create mass
like-
casualties more than the third main chemical in World War I, mustard gas. Now,
Oh, I
mustard
heard
gas
about
was
that.
not nearly as deadly as chlorine and phosgene-based gases, but it created just horrible wounds. This one worked completely differently. Its main target was not the lungs. This was a blister agent introduced
can
by
make
the
this,
Germans
can't you?
again. After being delivered by
Oh,
an
yeah.
artillery shell, it would burst into a fine aerosol, and when it landed on the skin, it caused cell damage that only showed hours later as huge,
Oh.
painful blisters. Eyes were the most affected, and other areas where there is more moisture. Mustard had an overall relatively low fatality rate, but was responsible for about 90% of those wounded by gas. It also
Dang.
lingered on the battlefield much
Well,
longer
it got
than
battle
other gases,
scars.
staying dangerous for days in damp areas. The battlefield now turned into constant anticipation of gas attacks, with soldiers devising different codes and alarms to warn everyone to put their gas masks on as quickly as possible. The
They
gas
wasn't even
masks
using
also
guns
got
no
improved,
more,
but
for
they
real.
never fully protected the soldier. They always wondered if the mask was sealed, if the filter was good, and they had to try breathing through a gas mask during combat itself on top of all the other standard dangers in such a war. It just added another level of horror to an already brutal war. All sides tried different cunning ways to mask their gas attacks and began firing them mixed with standard artillery shells to conceal them. The thing was that gas shells did not have an explosive filler like regular shells. The thin casing inside was filled with liquid gas, while a small burster charge in the middle would detonate upon impact. But it was designed in a way to not destroy the chemicals, so the sound of it bursting was distinctive and easily recognizable for soldiers who had spent some time in the trenches. They would hear the shells
The
bursting
trenches? What the
and
trenches
raise the
is?
alarm for everyone to put on gas masks.
What is the
So
trenches?
then they began delivering gas shells among the regular artillery barrage to cover them up. What was worst for the soldiers under attack was that dugouts that protected them from regular artillery made them the worst place to be in case of a gas attack.
Oh,
If you
the
remember,
gas getting
we
stuck
said that
in
the
there.
chemicals used were heavier than air and would sink down into trenches and dugouts and gather there. So this meant you would have a dilemma whether you were going to risk being gassed or go out and be blown up. It is just unimaginable for us today in our
Dang.
comfy homes how
You couldn't
terrible
do
and expensive
nothing. Like you can't even get up. You get up, they gonna blow you up. You stay down, you not gonna be able to breathe. You're gonna die. It's like there's no, bro. I'm telling you, war not meant for everybody, bro. They need to start putting robots in war. I have no problem with robots, but at least they don't gotta worry about like gas attacks. They could still get blown up and shot, but they can't. They don't gotta worry about no gas attacks.
experience thousands of soldiers went through not so long ago. And of course, millions of them did not survive it, or survived with
Robots,
consequences
I
that
mean,
made death
they gonna
perhaps.
cost a lot, but we already in debt, so they clearly don't care about money. Like we already in debt, like
an
by a
easier way
lot,
out.
like
Over the course of the
too
war,
much.
all sides released about 125,000 tons of chemical agents combined, in about 39 formulations. But the chlorine, phosgene, and mustard variations were the main ones. They produced around 1.3 million casualties, about
Damn.
100,000 of which died. Those who survived had various long-term consequences depending on how much they were exposed to chemical agents. By the end of the war, gas shells made up about 30% of all artillery shells used by all major powers. But listen to this. Because of tens of
Boy,
millions
got
of
the
gas
spam
shells
in that
fired out
hole.
of an estimated 1.5 billion shells of all types that were used throughout the war, statistics show that roughly 13 million chemical
Boys
munitions are still unexploded, buried in French and Belgian soil. Around 16 million
So can I
acres
go
of
find
forest
one of
had
those
to be
and
restricted. Because of this, and
use
some
one of
areas are
those?
still heavily controlled even to this day. Every year, farmers
God
still plow up tons of unexploded
damn.
shells and other remnants of perhaps the worst war in our history, and quite a few people have been injured or killed this way. About 630 French personnel clearing ordnance have been killed since 1946, and many other civilians.
Well,
Unlike
you
explosives,
could die
gas
from
shells are
digging
even
it up.
more delicate to deal with because the gas is still very much alive inside. Corrosion of the
Oh,
shell or
yeah, never mind. I
mishandling
don't want
could
one of
leak it
those.
out and do the same.
I don't want one of those. So I could just dig one up or just touch that bit and it's going to explode and kill me? Or the gas is going to get in me? Pause. Yeah, never mind. Them can stay hidden. Nah, yeah.
Thing it was intended to
They
do
still
until
catching
World
bodies
War
after the
I soldier.
war.
In the years after World War I and World War II, an enormous number of chemical munitions were dumped into the ocean as it was seen as the quickest and safest way to deal with them. But salt water corrodes the shells, and hundreds of thousands of tons of the agents we mentioned are just waiting to harm someone. For example, fishermen sometimes bring up mustard gas shells with their nets, and 91 fishermen were recorded injured by them. Not to mention their effect.
Nigga, you can't even fish for real. Nah, though, that war was crazy. Shit left some real lasting effects. You fish, you dig up you pick up a mustard shell, nigga. You now you just got injured for no reason, cause you trying to fish.
On nature and animals. It is really fascinating how sick we can be as a species and how far we can go just in finding the way to destroy each other. What do you think about
That's
this?
crazy.
And would you like us maybe to do a video on biological or nuclear weapons as well?
That's actually crazy. I ain't gonna lie. That was actually really informative. Like, I feel like I really learned something. I learned more than what they teach you in school because I'm really a better teacher than like your average history teacher, because I teach niggas what really need to be taught and not what they want you to be taught.